What happens when woman's dignity is crushed in the world ruled by pride and power? The woman who defied fate and death, returned not as a victim but as a warrior. And who was standing in her path? The invincible Bhishma, the man she vowed to destroy. From royal courts to cursed forest, from fiery wolves to God's blessing, this is a tale of vengeance, transformation, and dharma pushed to its limits. This is the untold story of Amba, whose heartbreak turned into divine rage. Welcome everyone, you are watching Indian Vedic Vibes. After Shantanu passed away, Bhishma made his brother Chitrangada the king. But when Chitrangada met an early end, Bhishma crowned his younger brother Vichitravirya as the new king. When Vichitravirya reached a maturing age, Bhishma learnt of a grand swayamvara organized by King of Kashi for his three daughters who were exceptionally beautiful. Their names were Amba, Ambika and Ambalika. All the kings of the land were invited to this swayamvara. But Bhishma had other plans. Riding alone on his chariot like thunder, he stormed the swayamvara, challenged all the kings present, and lifted the three princes onto his chariot. Seeing this, the mighty kings who had gathered for swayamvara attacked him from all sides. But Bhishma, with his unmatched skill, brought them all down with one arrow for each. He then returned to Hastinapura with the three princesses. With Satyavati's blessing, the date was set for Vichitravirya's wedding. At that moment, the eldest daughter Amba raised an objection. She revealed that she had already chosen the king of Shalva as her groom and that he would be waiting for her. Hearing this, Bhishma consulted Satyavati and the royal advisors. With their agreement, he respectfully allowed Amba to return to the king of Shalva. However, when Amba went back to him, King Shalva said, "Bhishma won you in the battle by defeating all of us, and I cannot accept you now." Hearing this, Amba was heartbroken. She pleaded with King Shalva, explaining that she had returned to him with Bhishma's permission. But Shalva refused to accept her and rejected completely. With a heavy heart and burning anger, Amba left the city. She reflected deeply on her situation, abandoned by her family, rejected by Shalva, and left helpless by Bhishma, who had let her go only because she requested for it. She began to question everything, her choices, her fate, and even swayamvara arranged by her father. In her eyes, Bhishma was truly responsible for her suffering, for he had won her by force as Virya Shulka, a prize of valor. Lost in thought, she wandered through the forest until she came upon a hermitage, where sages were engaged in their spiritual practices. Amba shared her story, the abduction by Bhishma, her release, and the painful rejection by the king Shalva. After listening to her full story, an elderly sage named Shaikavatya gently asked her how they could help in her current situation. Amba replied that she wished to stay and live among them. The sage advised her to return to her father's house, saying that the forest was not the right place for her to be. But Amba remained firm in her decision. While this discussion was taking place, a great Rajashri Hotravahana, her maternal grandfather, arrived at the hermitage. Upon hearing Amba's condition, he understood the pain she was going through. Instead of sending back to her father, he offered another path. He advised her to seek the help of Parashurama, the mighty warrior sage, who could bring her justice by challenging and defeating Bhishma in battle. When Amba asked where Parashurama could be found, Rajashri Hotravahana told her that he resided on Mount Mahendra. As they were speaking, a devoted follower of Parashurama named Akrutavrana arrived at the hermitage. In conversation with him, the sages learned that Parashurama would be coming to the forest the very next day. During their discussion, Hotravahana shared Amba's situation with Akrutavrana, explaining everything she had gone through. Amba too voiced her pain. She said Bhishma had abducted her without understanding her wishes or asking what was in her heart. The next day, Parashurama arrived in the forest with his disciples. All the sages welcomed him with great respect and informed him of Amba's situation. After listening, Parashurama told Amba that he would send word to Bhishma, asking him to take her back to Vichitravirya since Bhishma was once his student. But Amba, filled with pain and anger, insisted that Parashurama should instead kill Bhishma because she had lost everything because of him. Parashurama tried to console her but later agreed to intervene. He sent a message to Bhishma asking him to meet at the plains of Kurukshetra. When they finally met there, Parashurama asked Bhishma to accept Amba and restore her dignity, saying that princess should never be treated with such cruelty. If Bhishma refused, he warned Bhishma would have to face him in the battle. Bhishma humbly refused Parashurama's command. He said that he could not take Amba back to Vichitravirya as she had already expressed her desire to marry King Shalva. He added that he could not abandon dharma for her sake. Hearing this, Parashurama was enraged and challenged Bhishma to battle. The two mighty warriors clashed fiercely on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Their duel lasted for 23 days, shaking the heavens. Even the gods, including Brahma and Narada, descended to witness the battle and finally intervened to bring peace, forging a truce between Parashurama and Bhishma. After the war, Parashurama returned to Amba and told her that he had used all his divine strength to defeat Bhishma, but battle had ended without resolution. He suggested that she now make peace with Bhishma, but Amba firmly refused. She declared that under no circumstances would she go to him. Instead, she would seek her own path, one where she could personally bring Bhishma down in battle. Saying this, the princess left for the forest, her mind consumed with thoughts of Bhishma's death. She began a life of intense penance by settling in a small hermitage on the banks of the river Yamuna. She gave up food and became extremely thin, her body covered in dirt and mud. For 6 months, she survived solely on air, standing like a pillar. Later, she stood in waters of the Yamuna for an entire year without eating. The following year, she lived on just a single leaf each day. As her anger deepened, she only stood on the tips of her toes, continuing this harsh penance for 12 long years. Her tapasya was so intense that it shook even the heavens. She then went to Vatsabhumi, a hermitage near Yamuna, to continue her spiritual practices. She wandered freely through the sacred ashrams of Nanda, Uluka, Chyavana, Prayaga, Bhogavati, Kaushika, Mandavya, Dilipa, and Pailagargya. At each of these holy sites, the princess bathed in the sacred waters and continued her relentless penance, determined to gain the strength to defeat Bhishma. Witnessing her intense suffering and relentless penance, Ganga, mother of Bhishma, appeared before the princess and gently asked why was she putting herself through such pain. With humility, princess replied, Parashurama was unable to defeat Bhishma in battle. I will do whatever it takes to bring him down myself, even if it means being reborn to accomplish it. I am ready to wander the earth with that single purpose. Ganga, moved yet concerned, warned her. The path you are following is not righteous. Even if you give up this body, you will become a twisted river that no one will recognize. You will be filled with fierce crocodiles and flow only during rainy seasons, remaining dry for other 8 months. But the princess was unmoved by the warning. She stopped eating and drinking for next 10 months and ultimately gave up her body. Her spirit transformed into a river in Vatsabhumi, known thereafter as Amba, a river that flowed only during monsoon and was feared for its many crocodiles. In this strange transformation, half of her essence became the river, while the other half still remained in the form of determined princess burning with the desire for vengeance. Amba's determination to kill Bhishma was so intense that even when many sages came to her out of deep concern and tried to console her, they failed. Her will remained unshaken. Moved by her unyielding penance, Lord Shiva himself appeared before her. The divine light of Mahadeva shone upon her as he said, "You will be the one to kill Bhishma." Hearing this, Amba, filled with doubt, humbly asked, how can a woman like me achieve victory over a warrior as mighty as Bhishma in battle? Shiva smiled and replied, you will be reborn with manhood, and in that life you will be the one to defeat him. You shall be born as Mahabharata, a great warrior, in the lineage of King Drupada. There you will be honored as one of the most powerful warriors. Having spoken these words of destiny, Lord Shiva disappeared. After hearing Shiva's words, in the presence of the sages, she gathered wood and built a massive funeral pyre. Igniting the flames, she stepped into the fire, and as the fire consumed her, she declared, "This is for Bhishma's destruction." Meanwhile, in another part of the land, King Drupada was troubled. He had no sons, and with his enmity towards Bhishma, he desperately desired a child who could exact revenge on him. To fulfill this wish, he engaged in intense penance and worshipped Lord Shiva, praying for a powerful son. When Shiva finally appeared, Drupada expressed his desire for a son to kill Bhishma. But Shiva replied, "You will have a daughter who will become a man. This is her destiny." Though surprised, Drupada accepted the divine will, knowing that this child would one day carry the fire of vengeance meant for Bhishma. Drupada returned to his kingdom and shared the divine revelation with his wife. In time, they were blessed with a daughter of extraordinary beauty. Trusting in Lord Shiva's words, they kept the truth a secret and publicly announced that a son had been born. All the rituals and ceremonies meant for the male heir were performed for the girl, and she was raised as the prince. She was named as Shikhandi. In time, Bhishma came to know the truth of Shikhandi's birth through the sage Narada. Shikhandi was trained in warfare and proved to be a skilled and courageous warrior. He even became the student of Dronacharya, mastering the art of battle like any royal prince. Years passed, and one day Drupada's wife approached him with a request to find a bride for their son Shikhandi. This troubled Drupada deeply, as Shikhandi had reached maturity and their secret was now at risk of being exposed. Placing their full faith in Lord Shiva's words, knowing that his promise will never fail, Drupada and his wife arranged the marriage of Shikhandi to the daughter of Hiranyavarma, the king of Dasharna. However, after the wedding, Shikhandi's wife discovered the truth, that Shikhandi was biologically a woman. Shocked and ashamed, she confided in her nurses and close companions. It didn't take long for the news to reach King Hiranyavarma himself. Furious and humiliated, Hiranyavarma sent a private messenger to Drupada expressing his outrage and demanding answers for the insult. His anger only grew, and soon he began preparing his army to invade Drupada's kingdom. A formal notice of war was sent. Shikhandi, deeply ashamed by everything that had unfolded, was devastated. Overwhelmed with guilt and sorrow, Shikhandi fled into the deep abandoned forest of the Yakshas, determined to end her life. In the forest, Shikhandi fasted for several days, consumed by this sorrow. Seeing this, a kind-hearted Yaksha named Stunakarna approached and asked the reason for Shikhandi's suffering, and promised to help in any way he could. Shikhandi then shared the entire story, and with great humility she made a heartfelt request to be transformed into a man. Moving by her determination, Stunakarna agreed, but with one condition. He said, "I will lend you my male body and take your female form for a limited time, just long enough for you to save your kingdom and prove your identity. Once that is done, you must return to exchange our forms." Shikhandi agreed to this without hesitation. With that, the exchange was made. Shikhandi now possessed the blazing muscular form of the Yaksha. Empowered and confident, Shikhandi returned to the kingdom and told everything to King Drupada. Soon after, King Drupada sent a message to King Hiranyavarma declaring that his son Shikhandi was indeed a man, not a woman. To verify this, Hiranyavarma dispatched a group of exceptionally beautiful royal women to examine Shikhandi discreetly. After their return, they confirmed that Shikhandi was indeed a man. Sometime later, Kubera, the Lord of Wealth, was touring the world and happened to arrive at the residence of Stunakarna, the Yaksha. Expected a warm welcome, he was surprised when Stunakarna did not appear before him. Curious and displeased, Kubera questioned the other Yakshas, who explained the reason. Stunakarna is ashamed to face you, as he has temporarily exchanged his form with a human named Shikhandi. Hearing this, Kubera became furious and commanded the Yakshas to bring Stunakarna before him. Upon his arrival, Kubera cursed him, saying, "For giving away your form so carelessly, from now on you shall remain a woman and no longer a man." The other Yakshas pleaded with Kubera to lessen the severity of the curse. After considering their request, Kubera declared Stunakarna will regain his original body, but only when Shikhandi is killed. Having been cursed, Stunakarna continued to live in the forest, bearing the form of woman. After some days, Shikhandi returned to the Yaksha's hermitage to return her male form as promised. Delighted to see him, Stunakarna welcomed Shikhandi and narrated the curse he had received from Kubera. He then said, "Since I must remain in this form until your death, I ask you to keep my male body and live your life as you choose." Meanwhile, Bhishma, who was aware of the entire story, stood firm in his commitment to dharma. He knew that Shikhandi was none other than Amba, reborn and transformed into man for the sole purpose of taking his life. Yet, Bhishma declared that he would never raise his bow against someone who was born as a woman. To strike a woman, even if she is a warrior, would be a violation of his vow and his dharma. He said, "I would rather die than to raise my weapon against her." And at last, in Kurukshetra war, Shikhandi takes her revenge on Bhishma. If you have liked this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel for many more fascinating stories. Thank you.